For more on the plight of refugees and children, I talked earlier with Nathaniel Hurd of the charity World Vision. He says life has changed drastically for children today than just from a few years ago.
Children in Syria led lives very similar to those in a country like the United States or another developed country. They went to school, they went on vacation, they were able to play freely and easily. They've now had to leave everything behind, and many of them have ended up in situations, as we've seen all over the world, in conflict situations, where they're especially vulnerable to abuse, exploitation, and neglect. One of the real challenges we've seen in some of the refugee hosting countries is children at risk of labor, of having to basically work to support their families.
Right, when we look at how the international community is responding to the crisis in Syria, we see a lot of effort going into securing the country's chemical weapons. Now we're seeing the Geneva talks, a lot of effort being put into some kind of diplomatic, political solution to this crisis. But we haven't heard much about the plight of children. I want you to take a listen to what one refugee said.
We have no faith in the Geneva Conference. It will be against the best interest of the Syrian people, against those who are being killed, those who are hungry and destitute, those whose dignity is being tarnished.
We are sick of this. We are tired. Death is easier than this. We are asking for death, but it eludes us. We are praying that we die so that we may rest from this hunger, from poverty. We don't even have any clothes. My children spend a week without water and food, and no one pays any attention.
So there we heard from some refugees there telling us that they really don't have faith in this political process that is taking place right now. But I'm just wondering, what about the children again?
Last year, I actually had the opportunity to spend several weeks in Lebanon visiting with refugee families, including quite a few children. And what's remarkable about the families and about their children is that there's a strength, there's a resilience despite all they've experienced, despite all that they've endured. However, the longer they're away from home, the harder it is to have a sense of hope, a sense of optimism about the future. And I think what we're looking for out of the Geneva process, as well as just in general, is a sense of urgency from the international community, recognizing that the only way to really fully protect Syrians is a peaceful resolution of the crisis.
Yeah, and of course, we're focusing here on the violence that is taking place in Syria right now, the violence that is killing and injuring so many of these children. I mean, but there are other things like education. They're, of course, missing education at this time. Schools are shut down. What about health facilities?
The countries that are hosting Syrian refugees are overwhelmed. These are countries that are very small, and so it's very important that these countries and these communities not be alone in sharing the burdens of hosting refugee communities.
Right. One of the other things that we're hearing right now is that it looks like polio has made an appearance in these refugee camps as well as in Syria. It's believed to have been introduced by foreign fighters who are fighting in the country. Do you know anything about that?
The source of it is still unclear, I think, to many of us. I think what's essential is that the response be swift and be full. Part of it, again, depends on access to people, whether it's in refugee hosting countries or in Syria. But that's a great example of a very urgent issue that requires not only attention, but resources from the international community.
Okay, so thank you for joining us.